how the Marine Corps fitness test strengthened me and as an athlete and as a runner. When I was 17 years old, I had big dreams of joining the Marine Corps. Growing up in a small town, I saw the military as my way out. I had a chance to escape, build discipline, and prove to myself that I could be something greater. At that age, I was like most teenagers, feeling the uncertainty of what my future would hold, but clinging to the hope that earning that ego globe anchor would give me confidence and purpose. I soon learned that the first real test of becoming a Marine wasn't just about, wanting to do it. It was about fitness as well, right? So the Marine Corps has a physical fitness test. It wasn't just a general requirement, it was a standard of excellence that every Marine needed to maintain on their path to readiness. Like every year, not only did you have to pass the standard to pass boot camp, but you also had to maintain that fitness every year, as a Marine. But little did I know the habits I developed to ace the physical fitness test, as a young Marine would transform not only my military experience, but also the way I approached running later in life. So the Marine Corps Fitness Standard back in 2005, that PFT, I was 17 years old at the time. I was intimidated. I mean, like, I have to train for this fitness test, and because I want to go through boot camp and pass boot camp and become a Marine. And the Marine Corps Fitness Test is made up of three parts. It's pull-ups, sit-ups, and 3 mile run. For women, it was a little different. They swapped out pull-ups for a flexed arm hang, and they adjusted the run times just by a few minutes. Anyhow, so as a man, the minimum standard is 3 pull-ups, 40 sit-ups in 2 minutes, and a 28-minute 3 mile run. But if you wanted to max out, like have a what's called like the perfect score, obviously you could do more, but it'd be at least 20 pull-ups, at least 80 sit-ups in 2 minutes, and at least 18 minutes or less in the 3 mile run. And being someone who I was like committed to being the best I can be, I'm like, hey, if I'm going to join the Marine Corps, I don't want to just half-ass it and just do the bare minimum. I want to max it out. I don't want to just barely pass. My thing is like I want to max this test out and be in the best possible shape I could be. So leading up to joining boot camp, I was like training almost like a year or so, but like before it was my junior year of high school that I decided to join the Marine Corps, and then my senior year after high school graduation, I went off to boot camp. But anyhow, during that junior year of high school, I was training, running, sit-ups, pull-ups, because I was sick of tired of being like a weakling where I could barely do pull-ups, and I felt like, man, my confidence was low, and improving my fitness really helped boost up my confidence. And to me, it was just, hey, if I was going to join the Marine Corps, this elite unit, be part of the few, the pride, the Marines, I wanted to max it out. I wanted to really not just settle for mediocrity, right? Not just barely passing. And it wasn't just like to prove that I'm better. It was just to be me versus be a better version of me versus who I was, the version of me yesterday. So I was like, hey, can I be better than who I was? Which back in high school, I was just again someone who could barely run 3 miles. Like I was getting winded after a mile and a half. So it was like a big thing for me to like really improve my fitness. And then I also liked the Marine Corps is not just about running, but it was also, hey, core strength and upper body strength. Like you need to have a high standard in different domains. It was not just, okay, you could run fast, but hey, can you also do pull-ups? Upper body strength, could you also do enough sit-ups? Core strength. And so when I arrived at boot camp, my preparation definitely paid off. I was quickly ranked in the top three for my physical fitness among my peers, my platoon. And, it wasn't just the speed and strength that set me apart. It was also my ability to like bounce back. So there were minor setbacks. Maybe, got a cold during training. I think I had like a stomach flu, but I was able to recover faster without having to like spend so much time away in the sixth bay. Why? Because I built up my baseline fitness to such a high level that it gave me an edge. It actually, I was able to like bounce back quicker from like being sick and being injured, while many of my peers would struggle with injuries or simply lack the stamina to power through tough moments. But I built a solid foundation. So the annual physical fitness test doesn't just measure physical strength, right? For me, it also like helped give me discipline to stay consistent, to aim higher and to maintain fitness even under chaotic circumstances, like even working a busy, full-time job, right? That discipline kind of carried over when I left the Marines as well. It stayed me far beyond those days of my Marine Corps days to, hey, busy work schedule. I've, working full-time. I still gotta get my workout in. I still gotta, work on my business, even though despite maybe I'm working a 9 to 5 job, things like that. And from the Marines to running marathons. And after leaving the Marines, and I did eventually, left the Marine, ironically, because of sit-ups. I actually had a low back injury because of sit-ups, which was eventually replaced by the Marine Corps in 2023. Actually, I think they replaced the sit-ups with planks. I believe it's 2023 because just they've actually done research where doing high rep sit-ups would just increase the risk of low back injury. Anyhow, going back to my journey, I find myself running again. This time as a physical therapist, so I want to go into like, hey, let me just challenge myself. Got into the arena of marathon running to challenge myself. But I know something troubling when I got into the marathon running community. Many runners, particularly those in their 30s and 40s who took a marathon as a form of escapism from maybe their busy jobs or stressful like work life, showed a lack of foundational fitness, right? They were determined to chase these goals like completing their first marathon, but often skipped the steps needed to ensure their bodies were equipped to handle the strain. Here's what I saw way too often. Runners with minimal strength training experience suffering injuries from overuse. Runners pushing through races without walk breaks, only to hobble off the course in pain. And people whose lack of core upper body strength left them prone to breakdowns, both physically and mentally. And something I noticed as a physical therapist, I had to have people come in, beginner runners, marathon runners. They just start like emotionally breaking down because, they were training for their race. And I get it. It's very important to, maybe you signed up for like a race where you're going to travel to, you're going to go to like to London or Tokyo, and now you can't make the trip. I understand it can be very frustrating, but somehow they kind of lack that mental toughness to like that resiliency, like to like, hey, you could bounce back from this. And, working together in physical therapy, I help them kind of develop that resiliency and that mental toughness to eventually bounce back and then put them on a path with the right fitness plan. Like, hey, you just don't want to run alone. You also want to strength train and do mobility training so you'll be more well-rounded. So why fitness trainers matter for runners? This may sound controversial, but I firmly believe that any healthy adult bearing, I said healthy, all right, obviously if you have pre-existing medical conditions, that's a different story. But if you're a generally healthy adult, you should be able to train and to hit a 9-minute per mile pace. I know what you're thinking about, Ray. There's people who run a 12-minute mile pace and they could do a marathon. And I'm not saying you can't. You could definitely do that. You could do a 15-minute per mile pace. What I'm saying, what I'm trying to make an argument for is that you should have a base level of fitness, that you should be able to train yourself. Like, I don't think you should just wing it. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to wing it and just show up to the marathon without barely any training and then, get by on like 15-minute per mile pace, like barely any training. I think one, you should dedicate to training, and it's definitely achievable, again, for most healthy adults to hit a 9-minute per mile pace. And we're not asking that you have to become an elite runner or anything like that. It just mean having some standards for yourself and having like a baseline level of fitness that not just for your running, but overall resilience that, hey, you're building up your aerobic fitness. And it's also more than just winging it. Again, you can do what you please, of course. Heck, and maybe you don't even want to run marathons. That's a different story as well. Or maybe you don't even like running. Well, I hope you enjoy running if you're watching this video, or at least have aspirations to improve your running. I know some people, want to learn more about running, not because they love running, but they just want to improve it. Maybe just want to pass a fitness test like the military. Maybe they want to, just pass like a police academy test. Anyhow, going back to the topic of this, for reference, running a sub 4-hour marathon requires maintaining a 9-minute per mile pace, right? So if you want to run a sub 4-hour marathon, train yourself to be able to run a 9-minute pace. It always surprises me when I talk to a beginner runner, like, oh, what's your goal? Oh, I run finish the marathon in under 4 hours, but they don't really know what that breaks down minute per mile pace, right? That would be a 9-minute per mile pace. And I think, again, with enough consistency, effort, and smart training, it's possible to achieve that, right? And you don't have to wing it and be like, oh, I'm just going to get by with 15 minutes per mile pace. Again, assuming you don't have any health conditions. So the Marine Corps fitness standards serve as a guidepost for runners looking to elevate their training. It's not just about, okay, becoming a Marine. Yeah, for me, it was, I want to become a Marine, but even if you're not in the military, you're a civilian, it's about just cultivating a standard for yourself, like a level of fitness, right? Kind of how you have a standard for maybe cleanliness. So you brush your teeth twice a day. Maybe have a fitness standard, like, hey, at least every year you're maintaining a minimum level of fitness. Like, hey, you're able to run 3 miles in a certain amount of time. I think that's a great goal to have. Even if you don't want to do a marathon or you don't want to do a race, at least have a standard of fitness for yourself that ensures that, hey, you're able to tackle life's challenges, whether it's you want to run a marathon or maybe you just want to be healthier, live longer, less risk of injury, and just have greater confidence. Because fitness is a great confidence booster. So here's how you can adapt the principles of the Marine Corps fitness test to your running practice. One, work on upper body strength. So a lot of runners don't even do any strength training. So start doing things like pull-ups or push-ups in your routine. Maybe set a goal like, hey, and maybe be able to do at least 3 pull-ups, right? So, and then try to maintain that year after year, even, as you're getting older, try to maintain your upper body strength. Strengthen your core. So they replace sit-ups with planks. So now planks are a part of the test for the Marine Corps fitness test, and see, hey, can you hit the plank, the time plank? Can you hold the plank for a minute? Can you hold the plank for 2 minutes? Right, a strong core protects your lower back against injuries and also improves your running efficiency. You have a strong, stable core that you can use while you're running. Further, you want to build your endurance. Practice running with a set time or distance goal. Right, even if you don't want to do races, maybe you don't care about doing a marathon, at least set like a certain time. Maybe you want to run a mile in a certain time, or like follow the Marine Corps 3 mile. Like, hey, maybe you want to run 3 mile. Can you at least do it in 28 minutes or less? Right, which again would be a little under around like a 9 minute plus per mile pace. If you did 9 minutes per mile, that'd be 27 minutes. If that now to get you under 28 minutes. So focus not only on speed, but also on maintaining proper form as you fatigue. Common missteps of beginner runners and how to avoid them. Right. So one, if you just don't have that general base level fitness, right, which are, let's say, 3 mile run, start with walking, run, walk. Right. Can you run, walk it? Right. Run, walk, build up your base level of fitness. Maybe right now you're only doing 12-minute per miles. Start doing run, walk, because it's a somewhat interval training. Run, walk is actually interval training, and you could then start making the run portion of the run, walk faster as you get fitter. And you actually notice that doing run, walk is great interval training, and it's going to take less stress on your body, less potential risk of injury. Another common mistake that a lot of beginner runners make is neglecting strength training. Just too many runners avoid strength training for whatever reason. Maybe they have a misconception that if they strength train, it's going to slow them down. Or even those who do strength train, they think they have to stick to very light weights and high reps. While yes, that can have some benefits if you don't do any strength training. If you go from zero strength training to doing high reps and light weights, that's going to be better than doing zero strength training. But then from then, if you may plateau if you just stick with very light weights. You still want to challenge yourself, maybe do moderate to heavy weights. You don't have to do it every single strength workout, but at least a few strength workouts. Also do heavier weights, and then you'll notice that you'll get stronger. You don't have to get bulky, right? Bulkiness comes from like eating lots of food and super high protein diets. If you don't eat lots of food, like you eat the same amount of food, you could still be a lean runner and incorporate proper strength training, which will improve your running and also make you faster. So maybe you go from a 12-minute per mile runner to a 11, then a 10, then a 9-minute per mile runner. Avoid run, walk, another mistake that a lot of beginner runners make is they avoid walking. They think that walking is a sign of weakness. They don't want to walk during a race. They don't want to walk during a run. But instead, they should embrace it, especially if you're a beginner. Run, walk intervals are a great way to maintain your fitness. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a type of interval training, and you can do this for long distance. You can even do this if you're already fast. Like if you already run a 4-hour or like a 3-hour marathon, you could actually still do a 3-hour marathon doing run, walk intervals. So don't think that run, walk is just for the slower runners. Plus, it reduces your risk of overuse injuries while still improving your fitness. Another mistake beginners make is unrealistic race goals. Jumping into marathon training like, oh, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to jump right into marathon without adequate training can wreak havoc on your body and your confidence, because then you're going to get injured. You're like, oh man, why did I do this? So for first timers, set a more reasonable goal. Maybe go from couch to a 5K, and then from 5K to 10K, then to 10K to the half marathon. Like, work your way up gradually. Not saying you can't train for a marathon as a complete beginner, but give yourself a long enough window so you can properly prepare, right? Because you might be overweight. Maybe you need to lose some weight as well. So, at least 6 months, but even better, I'd say if you're a complete beginner, a year, right? Build up your baseline, especially if you're overweight, you work at desk jobs, you're maybe dealing with like stiffness or achy joints, maybe even have like low back injury. You need to address the injury first. So, really set yourself a good timeline so you can prepare and be, well prepared, especially if you're going to jump into something like a marathon. So what kind of runner are you? Through my work as a physical therapist and former Marine and a run coach, I've come across to see different types of athletes and runners with different personalities when it comes to training. The winger. This is the person who just doesn't follow the plan. They just kind of wing it, hoping everything just is going to work itself out, right? Can you wing it? Yes. Can you wing it and show up to a marathon and just, wing it and just cross finish line? You could. You definitely could. But you also put yourself at a high risk of injury. You may actually conclude that, oh, you hate marathons because they're so hard. And it could be that you just didn't prepare and, planning to fail failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So if you don't prepare, you fail to plan, you fail to follow a structured plan. Now you're planning to, you're setting up yourself for failure. Why are you going to do that? Why are you going to wing a marathon? You could wing a 5K. I still don't recommend doing that either, but there's lots of a risk of injury from winging a 5K than a marathon. And you have to ask yourself, who do you want to be? Maybe you don't even care about running. If you don't care about running and you just want to wing it because it's just, hey, your friend invited you out for a run, totally understand. You do you. The dabbler. This is someone who just picks up random advice online and they don't commit to a program. Like they'll watch a YouTube like this, pick up some tips, they'll add it to their toolkit, and then they kind of dabble here and there. Maybe they run recreational, like the Weekend Warrior type running, but they're a dabbler, like, they little bits of information here and there. They never get really serious about it. They take a couple months off here and there. Oh, it's the winter. They don't do any running at all. Then, spring and summer comes. Maybe they run a little bit into the fall, then they hibernate again. So the dabbler. Then we also got the know-it-all. So someone, maybe they're more consistent with running because maybe they were a former athlete. Maybe they did sports in high school or college, but they think they know it all. They think they know everything it is about sports and things because they did it in college or high school. And that person also may set themselves up for injury because they don't, improve. Like okay, I'll take big gaps in training, then I'll come back to running because I know it all. I've done it in the past. And then they end up potentially getting injured because they just jump right into like a marathon cycle without building up their base first, without adequately warming up, building up their body. And they may have this know-it-all, but not really realizing that they may have incomplete information or they're not implementing all this information that they know. And then there's the fourth type of runner, those who are committed to mastery. A runner who sees every season as an opportunity to grow, understanding that fitness is a lifelong process. They don't say, "Oh, I'm just going to take a whole year off," right? To them, that's unacceptable. Like if they're committed to like being the best version of being physically fit in different domains, running, strength training, like they want to be well-rounded in different domains. So one, they understand that they see the value in just being a mastery of the craft, like a professional athlete. And they don't have to be necessarily a professional athlete, right? You don't have to be the elite world record runner. You can still have that mentality, that committed to master mentality, even though your main thing, you work a 9-to-5 desk job and you do the best at your job, but also you take your hobby of running seriously, right? You're like, hey, I'm gonna make sure I'm able to run as long as I can. Even when I'm 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, you still want to have this mentality of mastery where you see every opportunity to grow. If you got injured, you don't like get upset like, oh, I got injured, this is the worst thing ever. You're like, what can I learn from this injury? How can I grow? What weak spots does this injury highlight? Okay, maybe I need to do more strength training in my calves, right? Like maybe you got an Achilles tendon injury. How can I improve? How can I make my Achilles tendon stronger so it doesn't happen again in the future? So ask yourself, which type of runner are you? Are you the winger, the dabbler, the know-it-all, the committed to mastery? If you're ready to elevate not just your running, but your overall fitness, I encourage you to aim for consistency and growth. Aim for mastery. If that's something that you want, of course, you have to truly want it. I can't want it for you. And no matter where you're starting from, at least aim to like grow and have this growth mindset, Even if you're the winger currently, like, hey, try to have this growth mindset. How can you improve? Even a little bit of improvement can go a long way. So push past the minimum standards. So the Marine Corps taught me not to settle for mediocrity. Whether you're aiming to run your first 5K or your 10th marathon, adopting a mindset of improvement, a growth mindset, setting personal fitness standards can take you further than you think. Strength, endurance, and perseverance aren't just tools for Marines, they're cornerstones for runners too. Your next PR, your personal record, isn't waiting for you at the finish line. It starts with the work you put in today. So aim high, stay consistent, and most importantly, enjoy the run. Now lace up those shoes, and if you need help, setting those fitness standards for yourself, you want to get, more in shape for running, I'm going to drop a link to our free training here. And after you watch that free training, if you really like gung-ho, want to work with me, there's also an opportunity to book a call with me till we talk on our running strategy call. Anyway, I'm out.